Good morning. Welcome to this week's lecture on media and Bronfenbrenner's ecological system. What we're going to look at today is some definitions of media, how we use media specifically in the United States, how it fits into our ecological theory, a little bit about digital parenting, which is the new kind of term that we're using for supporting parents trying to be better about screens and media. And then we'll also look at culture as well. So media, so we have tons of types of media. We have books, we have magazines, printed materials, we have social media, so your Instagram, your Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, we have phones, iPads, computers, any kind of screens is typically how we refer to them now. TV is a form, commercials and TV shows, radio, podcasts, and then DVDs, online, anything online, so like YouTube channels, me talking, this is media as well. Within media is also a message embedded in those medias. So that's where, because that's where it kind of gets confusing for some students, is that there is just media, but within media we also have a message. So in this media I am using the Zoom camera to give you PowerPoint slides that I then narrate to give you examples, and within that I have embedded it with messages. So without kind of talking about it, I'm encoding this with information that you would need as course content. So we will look at media and technology today. So most people are online. About 11% of adults are not online, and they are more often to be over the age of 65. They're more often to be a person of color, Black or Hispanic. It's about the same for men and women, 11% and 12%. And then people who are making less money are not online as well. And typically they have less than high school and they're in rural settings. So a while ago, the FCC was trying to change and did eventually change some kind of rulings about net neutrality, which affects our internet access. Their kind of idea about that, and one of the reasons that they pushed for it, is because they were trying to have the FCC themselves, so the federal group that kind of monitors and takes care of the internet and has rulings about it, wanted to make sure that people who live in rural environments also have access to really good broadband data and internet. So that was part of why they pushed for net neutrality, and it actually was eventually passed. So it'll be interesting to see if this can kind of change the numbers between urban. So only % of people who live in an urban environment do not have internet versus rural, which is 22. And that might be because some people live quite off the grid or off in more rural settings, and getting data or broadband or Wi-Fi or signals can be very difficult in those types of situations. And net neutrality was a way to, or is supposed to be, a way to have companies that provide internet get them to our more rural customers as well. So primarily, it's older adults who live in rural settings who don't make a lot of money, which would kind of make sense. You know, my grandmothers, they have both passed away in recent years, but they never went online. It was just not part of their generation. Born in the 1920s, it was just not something that they were interested in. They didn't have email. I had to call them on the phone. They never had cell phones either. There is somewhat of a divide as well for children. So 1/3 of households with children, and so that's children under the age of 17 whose parents' income falls below $30,000 a year, so that's kind of poverty line, do not have a high-speed internet connection at home. So then it would be 6% of households earning $75,000 or $80,000 more. So we see that very often children who are Black and Hispanic might also be in lower income houses. And so those children might be missing out on those high-speed internet connections. They might be having to use phone or data plans. And most of our work, I mean, we are online right now learning. You guys, you know, I'm recording this in the middle of our self-quarantine, self-isolation, and we needed to make sure that all of our students still had access to technology. And so that could be really difficult. Some of you don't have it as well, and you depend on the libraries that have now shut down it as well. this recent kind of issue with this pandemic has really kind of brought these issues to light, that some people still don't have technology like computers and internet. And that's a huge deal when we look at children, especially. We're trying to make sure that they stay up on their homework. If they don't have that at home as they're off for a month, maybe more, that could be a really big drop in academic achievements, because especially if we stay out through the summer, that could be potentially 5 months that children are not getting the schooling that is primarily now on the internet. A lot of the schools have sent home packets, but a lot of it is online through YouTube videos, and that's how you guys are learning. So we really need to be aware of the fact that some people aren't online, and that's a huge issue right now as everything kind of transitions to screen time. We do know that minority children do watch 50% more TV than their white counterparts. So higher income children are getting more kind of high quality screen time. They're using it to create, to talk with other people, to have pen pals, to learn, to go on YouTube like Khan Academy and learn higher level things. And the minority children who might not have that kind of access to a screen for learning are going to watch more TV. I love TV. There's nothing really wrong with TV, but you can probably spend too much time doing any kind of activity. And so minority children watch almost 50% more TV, which is less interactive. There's not as many opportunities to connect, to write, to learn math than we do like on our internet screens like this. So that's an issue too, is that rich and poor children are getting different access to screens. So high quality screen work. So this is from a policy brief from London, where I went to grad school, but I think it communicates well and translates well to the United States as well. So digital media, we want good quality screen work. So just like schools, we can have lots of different types of school. We want to make sure that it's high quality. We learned about that earlier in the semester. So high quality screen work would be the opportunity to learn, like we are now, to create things, learn how to code, learn how to create video games, do some art maybe as well, so digital and graphic design, communicate with other people from different parts of the world, learn how to write online, learn how to communicate with people of that, across kind of vast differences, and participate as well. So that's kind of one of the issues with TV, is there's not a lot of participation, there's not a lot of creation, there's not a lot of communication. So you want to make sure that all children have access to this kind of high quality screen work, because media and technology are most likely here to stay. We do want to minimize it for our younger children, but as we get older, it is something that we all kind of use. I mean, you guys are on Canvas right now as we kind of make this transition into online learning. So you guys, we want to make sure, and that's why I'm doing these Zoom videos, is I'm giving you the best quality, or what I can provide at this time, screen work. We started the semester thinking that it was going to be face-to-face and lecture for many of you, and now we are having to transition to kind of this online system. So it's been an adjustment for everybody. We want to make sure, to the best of our ability, we're doing the best we can. So we are going to look at our ecological system right now. So where does media fit in? So media is in our microsystem, but it's also in all parts of the ecological system. Some theorists are even trying to kind of change that idea, and they're calling it the digisystem. And so it's something that is embedded in all layers. But right now, and the way that I've been teaching the class, is it's part of our microsystem, because we read something every day, we watch TV, we see commercials, you're on Canvas, you listen to the radio, all of that is media. So you are that is part of your daily life and a child's daily life as well. So this is created by somebody else. This is the idea of technology in all of our systems. So our microsystem, we've got school, we've got home, we've got our community, we've got our friends, and then whatever you use on a daily or mostly daily basis would also be part of your microsystem if we were looking at social media. So Instagram, I was off Instagram for a while. Now I'm back on, and it's addictive, and I'm scrolling all the time. So I would definitely have to put Instagram into my microsystem as part of my media. I don't like Twitter and I don't like Facebook, but Instagram, totally, That's me. I'd also put on the radio. I like to listen to the radio at home, in the car, so that would definitely also be part of my media. And then I've been reading probably too much news online as well, as I'm home and trying to get away from it. But you know, with this kind of COVID-19, I've been on the news. So that would definitely be part of my microsystem. And then my mesosystem as well, I could look at the connections. So I could look at, how do my friends use media? Do we communicate on Instagram or not? How do we communicate on our phones or not as well? If we were looking at our exosystem, so remember that our exosystem is a bit larger than us. So if we were looking at a child, this would be our ideas about the child's job, parent's job, the school board, healthcare, social services. So if we were looking at media ecosystem, this would be an Instagram programmer. So if I ever flagged something as inappropriate, that person would log on and see if it is inappropriate or not. If I did something, they might look at my post and kick me off. So all the kind of programmers are going to be part of our exosystem, but they are using the laws, attitudes, and technology of our macro system to make those decisions. So they might have a little bit of leeway to make individual differences, but for the most part, our media is just doing what Facebook is telling them to do, the law about technology is telling them to do, and also what our attitudes about technology are, which are changing really fast because our social media is changing, and what we think is appropriate or not appropriate is also changing as well. So we're going to skip to the idea of digital parenting. So we've talked about who has access to media. We talk about what it looks like in maybe our daily life. It's part of all of our systems, but it's definitely part of our microsystem. So you might want to think about what media or technology do you see on a daily basis? As an individual, what are you doing? You're probably on some kind of social media. You probably have some kind of phone. You probably have some kind of iPad. I mean, I've literally got my iPad that's broken because my kid stepped on it. Within arm's reach, I also have my dumb phone because I keep breaking iPhones. So I have a $20 dumb phone right here. And I'm also on my laptop at home trying to work from home and communicate with you guys for the rest of the semester this way as well. So I'm on a lot of different screens in order to do my job, in order to communicate with my peers, in order to have some downtime to get my news. I also listen to the radio, and I also have an Alexa as well. And as I've been attempting to homeschool my children, we've been asking Alexa a lot of questions about penguins and platypuses and things that we've been learning about or trying to learn about at home. So I could also put Alexa in my microsystem under that as well. But digital parenting is kind of this idea of teaching your children how to use technology and social media responsibly. So we want to keep children safe. That is our first priority as parents, not just on media, but everywhere. But within media, we want to make sure that the platforms that we have children on are safe. And that's why as parents, we've been lobbying places like YouTube to have YouTube Kids, to not have comments, because we know that there are people online who might look to traffic or harm our children, or pictures or things like that. So we've got to keep children safe. So that's the biggest part of digital parenting, but then also teaching your child how to use technology and social media. So this kind of upside down triangle, wow, look at me, I'm a math genius. It's not a square, it's a triangle. But this is an inverted pyramid, or it's an upside down triangle. And this is going to show us how we kind of start with digital devices. So starting from just really minimal towards more freedom. So as children get older, from birth to 6 to 12 to 18, they're given more freedom in how they use technology. So birth to 6 years, it should really, really be minimal use of digital devices. Under 2, we should have probably very, very little. Under 1 should really be nothing, except maybe a screen time with grandparents that live far away. FaceTime, I mean, with grandparents that live away. Other than that, under 1, children should have little to no kind of contact with screens. They're not learning anything through that. Children under the age of 1 learn by being in their environment, by moving around, by doing things and manipulating things with their hands. So we know that children under 1 shouldn't be on screens, even TV at all. 2 and 3, maybe 30 minutes a day of good quality Netflix, Amazon, a platform, ABC, CBS, something like that, where we know that it's tailored toward younger children. And then 4, 5, and 6-year-olds can have a little bit more use of it. They might do a couple of minutes of coding. They might do a online shape sorting game, something like that, but it should be really, really minimal as well. Most learning under the age of 6 should be hands-on, and they're going to learn a lot more by being in their environment and learning from other people and from what's going on around them. So we do know that, so it should be minimal. 6 to 11 years, so they should have occasional use. They can learn coding, they can learn graphic design, they can be supported in the math that they're learning by doing some games like Nightfall and Skyfall. I'm probably saying that wrong. My twins were here who are 8. They would be screaming at me that that's not what their math system is called. But I see some importance in digital devices. They've learned a little bit more about math. They've gotten faster to it as well. But we still want most of their time to be in person, talking to friends, playing with friends, talking with us, playing checkers, reading books as well. 12 to 17 years old, we want more freedom because that's our high school time. So they're going to be using it a lot at school. They're going to have iPads. They're going to be learning how to type, how to submit things by email, how to email people appropriately. But they're probably going to need some kind of supervision and support as they figure out how to be on social media, as they email people. So they're going to need their parents' freedom. We also want to help them make those changes because once they're 18, once they're adults, they're going to have freedom. And so we want to make sure that with that freedom, they've been taught how to use it appropriately. And they're not going to be inappropriate. They're not going to be trolls online. They're not going to be hurtful or mean to other people. So this is some examples that I might have. And I was just kind of talking about. So a child 0 to 3, they might just use screen time or FaceTime to talk with their parents who live far away. For maybe a 3-year-old, 2 30-minute episodes of a child-appropriate show would be okay. And I would want it to be on a network or a streaming service. YouTube Kids, I mean, they don't have comments anymore. It's a little bit more protected in that way, so not pedophiles and things like that. But the quality, I mean, I could put a video up and it could just be like flashing circles over and over again. What would children actually kind of learning by that? Baby Shark. I don't think children learn anything by watching Baby Shark, and it's way too addictive, that too. 3 to 6 years old, child watches limited TV from similar networks. They're introduced to some apps, coding, and games, but most of their learning, once again, is active exploration. 6 to 12 years old, children are learning more on technology from the schools and from their parents as well. We're helping them make decisions about good quality. We're talking them through it, making sure that even at 12 or 13, the videos that they're watching, the people they come in contact with through online gaming are appropriate peers for them to be playing with or appropriate shows for them to be watching. And 12 to 18, they're allowed to make more choices about their media. There's natural consequences, though, if one of their choices is not very good. So, excuse me. A natural consequence would be they are using their allotted time. So let's say you give a 17-year-old 10 hours of media during the week. If they burn all of it on Monday playing, Instagram or playing Fortnite all night, then they're not going to have very much. And so that's great. A lot of times those time limits can be really helpful for teenagers because they're going to have more freedom as they get older. So knowing and setting those kind of limits on technology and not letting them get more of it will help them kind of be able to balance their days. I've seen this with some of my friends, like they gave them, I think he got 20 hours a week. And he literally, it started on Friday night, they were going to do this, it was 20 hours. After that, he was kicked off of the laptop, he couldn't do the gaming anymore, and he used it all by Sunday night. So he basically played most of the weekend was playing this, and so by the time he got to Monday, he then had to go 5 days without any kind of screen time because he had used it up already. So that's a great natural consequence. Helps him kind of figure out what's appropriate and not appropriate amounts of time to be online. Or another one might be that a parent hears from a child that the child took part in like an online burn book or something like that, so they're being maybe rude, disrespectful, unkind. The parents could explain why it's hurtful, why what they did was not okay, what the consequences are to that child. The child was hurt, they had their feelings hurt. And they could be removed from the platform. So they could be taken off Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever it was for a certain amount of time. And their parents could watch their interactions again until they feel that they've earned back that trust and respect. And then they might be able to have a little bit more freedom again. So that's a good example. Some other ways that this place in London kind of want parents to support screen time and digital parenting is to kind of recognize that media is no longer an optional extra. So at this point in time, our screen use is not an option anymore, really. Screen time is just part of our life. You are learning on the screen right now. Children come in contact with screens all the time. They can even go to McDonald's and see screens to order from. They'll be playing TV there. So it's part of our kind of daily life, and parents need to kind of make decisions about what that means for each individual family. Then we also need to understand that there are some good things about it as well. So move beyond just risk. So what are ways that children can create online to learn coding, which is going to be very important as we move forward and have kind of more robotics. We also know that graphic design and the ability to do that is going to be very sought after as well. So there are economic things that we could be teaching our children. So we want to move beyond that. And then we also want to acknowledge that we put a lot of this just on parents. And parents, if we're looking at our chrono system, so over time, my parents didn't have this problem. My parents had TV, of course, and they would have discussions about what's too much TV or turn the radio off or a record player, because that's how old I am. So my parents talked a little bit about media, but they did not have this level of screen time technology and social media in their lives when they were really parenting me. So chrono system, I don't have my parents as a support. They can't give me advice because they never had to parent in this way. So I'm kind of the first generation that is really struggling to decide how to use digital parenting. So that is not great. I mean, that's a lot of stress on parents like me and your parents as well as we try to navigate this. So how can we kind of support other parents and support ourselves in making good decisions? It's a really, really tricky area right now. And part of that is media literacy. So we need to use our media literacy, and we need to teach children how to use media literacy. So media literacy is the ability to access, to analyze, and to evaluate, and then maybe create media. So we want media literate youths and adults that are better understand the complex messages we receive from TV in the shows that we're watching, that maybe what are they telling you about families or not. In the commercials, you know, buy me, buy me, buy me, but it's sometimes on screens, especially on social media, it's hard to tell what is an ad. Is it sponsored or not? Is it actually an ad, but they haven't disclosed it to us? Radios are always giving us messages about the types of music that we should listen to or not listen to. The internet has a lot of messages, and that's why we have media kind of literacy programs, is to be able to decide what is true, what is not true, and try to figure that out. Newspapers and magazines and books and billboards and video games and music, all of that has messages in them. And typically it's what we call coded. And that means that they're not telling you what it is. It's not explicit. They're not saying, and my message is that you should do this or do that. I guess the only ones that are really explicit about it would be like political messaging. We're about to go into a presidential cycle. So those kind of presidential campaigns are telling you why you should vote for somebody or not. But in a lot of the other situations, it's not explicit what those messages are. So this is from Sue Summers, and she's kind of a media expert, and she's trying to help parents, help children decide how to use media. So she has the 3 R's: review, reflect, and respond. So in the first one, you review something that you just watched. So if you went out, you were watching a TV show at home with your child, you might review what they've just watched. So how was the Power Rangers? What was it about? Could that actually happen? Especially for young children under the age of 7, that's really a struggle for them. They might think that it's true. So if you're watching a Marvel, could Iron Man actually do that? Can he be in space? Can he fly? Can Captain America run that fast? So you might need to talk through truth and reality versus make believe, so that children try to kind of understand that. Reflect. So you can help your child by asking a question. So what did you think about Iron Man? What did you think? Do you think that that could happen to Captain America? When children are older, you might ask them about those media messages. So who is this intended to reach? Is this a reliable source? Who is writing this or telling you about this? Does that person have qualifications? So I have a YouTube channel because I put my videos on YouTube, but my YouTube channel is only about child development, because that's what my master's is in, that's what all of my learning is in, that is what I've been hired by community colleges and Cal States to teach you. I could probably start another YouTube channel about geometry, but I'm really not qualified to do anything with geometry. You guys would learn the opposite of what geometry actually is, because I struggled with that even more than algebra, and I was not great at algebra. So if I had a math YouTube channel, you would probably question my qualifications and my ability to teach you basic math. But I'm probably okay at teaching child development because I've been taught that and I've had a lot of professional development in it. Then respond. So you've seen some kind of media like Iron Man, you've reviewed it, you've reflected on it, you've looked at the source. So in Iron Man, that might be the Marvel, and it might also be the large film corporation that spent millions of dollars making this movie. And then how are we going to respond to it? So what kind of messages did I receive from Iron Man? So I got some messages about things that are not true and not realistic, that as far as we know right now, Iron Man could not happen. I think he flies. I haven't seen Iron Man for a while it was a while ago with my nephews that I last saw, but you know, he kind of has the suit and he flies around and he glows and he got hurt. But also within that are messages about him changing and being a good person and having good relationships. And learning from mistakes and failures as well. So there are some good messages, and then there are also some kind of unrealistic things. So I need to kind of look at those messages and respond to them. So this is how we would help children kind of learn through. Is Iron Man true? But what are the good things that we also learned from it? So that's ways that we can help children navigate media, because that would be a mesosystem connection, right? So that would be me as the parent and my parenting styles helping child with media. So that's that link or connection between media and family, and that is how I'm going to help and digital parent my children. So this is an example. So if we were going to a Marvel movie with a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, the 10-year-old, you could probably talk briefly about what's real or not. At 10, they can probably make those decisions. The 7-year-old would really need some more support from you in what's real, what's not real. Iron Man can do that or cannot do that. A 15-year-old is maybe listening to a podcast on immigration camps or the Holocaust. So they're older, they have formal operational, they have a lot of brain development, they're able to understand that. But this might be the opportunity for them to look at the podcast. Who recorded the podcast? What are their sources? What kind of historical documents did they use to talk about the Holocaust or current immigration camps or something like that? So if we're talking about a recent news article, where did that come from? What is the podcast reporting on? And then if you're taking your little 5-year-old on vacation to New York City, and you go to the memorial for September 11th, they have a beautiful memorial, very somber, but if you took the child there, that would be something that a lot of families do. You know, 9/11 was a big part of my life, and I would take my child there and I would want to talk them through, you know, a very somber moment in American history. But they might see some of the footage of 9/11 on the screens at the memorial. People jumping and falling out of buildings, firefighters running into the smoke, see all the pictures of the people who did die. So a 5-year-old, you would need to talk them through that as well. And you would want it to be age appropriate, that people died at this time, and you might want to talk to them about some of the footage that they're seeing to make sure that they're not scared and that you can respond to kind of their feelings about it as well. So our media is changing. So our digital parenting is changing as well, and our microsystem and our mesosystem and our exosystem have to change as well. So as our media and our microsystem is changing, it's changing those mesosystem connections. How are your friends using media? How's your family using media? How are you using media? What are the programmers doing? How is the law changing? So in order for us to continue to support children, we need to change our systems as much as the media is changing, which can seem like a lot. All right, thanks so much, guys. I'll see you online.